Chairman, we're ready to start the meeting now.
Thank you. Welcome to a virtual meeting of the Major Applications Planning Committee of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This virtual meeting is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. I'm Councillor Eddie Lavery and I am the committee chairman. Before we start, I will do my usual online housekeeping. Can you please keep any mobile phones around you on silent? Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking, and then unmute them to speak. One person at a time, please, and I as chairman will call you to speak. I will be using the gallery view, so if you signal to me that you wish to speak, we will pick it up from that. Before I move to the agenda, can I just do a roll call to confirm who we've got? Councillor Tuckwell.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Hagger.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Higgins.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Melvin.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morse.
Councillor Morse, we're going to try and contact. He hasn't yet been able to access the meeting.
Okay. Councillor Duncan.
Present.
Councillor Sansapuri.
Unfortunately, Chairman, Councillor Sansapuri seems to be having some technical difficulties. We'll try and get him to rejoin.
Okay, we are quorate, although we are currently 2 members down. In terms of the officer team, Planning Officer Mandeep Malhotra.
Present, Chairman.
Head of Planning James Roger.
I'm present, Chairman.
Democratic Service Officer Liz Penny, I know, is present, and Legal Officer Kerry Munro.
Good evening, present, Chairman.
Good. In terms of technical control, any councillor who leaves the meeting partway through, for example, lost connection, I will continue the meeting as long as I'm quorate, which is 3 councillors. Importantly, any councillor who does leave the meeting for a period of time is not able to vote on the items they're not present on. In terms of absence, we have a couple of councillors we believe are trying to connect, but apart from that, everybody should be present. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? If you do, could you indicate now? I see no indications on screen unless, Liz, you don't see any?
No, I don't, Chairman.
Thank you. The minutes of our virtual meeting dated the 27th of May are in your bundle. Can I take those as agreed? Thank you. I see no dissent. I see a couple of hands up. Thank you. All the items tonight are in part 1. There is a withdrawn item, which is item 8, Harmersworth landfill site. That was withdrawn by the applicant earlier in the week. So we're not taking item 8. We're taking all other items in the order that they are on the roll. So I'm going to move. We have Councillor Sansapuri. Can you hear us, Councillor Sansapuri?
Yes, I can.
Good, thank you. So Councillor Sansapuri is in the meeting. We're just waiting for Councillor Morse, but no, I haven't got anything from Councillor Morse. Okay, the first item is item 6 on your agenda, Meadow High School. Mandy, could you give us a presentation, please?
Well, thank you, Councillor Chairman. Good evening, members. I will just share the presentation with you. You can all see it?
Yes, you're good.
Agenda item 6 is Meadow High School. Members should note that there is an addendum on this item which was circulated yesterday, which is a minor change to one of the conditions. The application before us is for the construction of 2 temporary single-storey modular classroom buildings on the Meadow School site. The application site identifies the site as having no specific designations, albeit it does adjoin the greenbelt on the western elevation, on its western boundary, sorry. This is a wider site location plan showing its context within a highly residential area. These are the plans and elevations of the modular classroom building which are proposed. There will be a accessible ramp which provides disabled access into the modular classroom. The temporary classrooms are proposed to be sited on part of the sports field. Now, part of the comments within the officer report does highlight that Sports England did have some initial concerns with the application for these temporary classrooms, primarily because of the provision or the inability to provide full sports facilities and tracks. However, this application is associated with another application which is not mentioned within the report, primarily because it has only just been received by the council. So the temporary classrooms are proposed to facilitate a larger redevelopment to provide a new 2-storey sports hall building with Amuga and hard play areas. Sports England are therefore content that, subject to that proposal, which will be presented to Planning Committee in a few months' time, being approved, obviously the cumulative sports facilities on the site will be enhanced thereafter. Therefore, for the temporary period of 2 years, they're happy to accept the 2 temporary classrooms and the amended sports provision on the application site. So there is no in-principle objection from Sports England, subject to the condition number 1, which is within the officer report. This is a bird's eye view of the school. So you can see that there are extensive fields, and then the 2 temporary classrooms are proposed to be located where I'm indicating the red dot on the screen. The application has been recommended for approval, subject to conditions and with the addendum change. And here are a few images of the access to the site from Benson Close. We have received neighbour objections with regard to construction logistics and how the site can be accessed, because primarily the site access is via Benson Close, which is a highly residential area. We have sought to impose a construction logistics plan condition, which is condition number 4, in order to ensure that when we're looking at the proposed times of accessing the site to build the temporary buildings, it will limit its impact on the neighbouring residents, given that there is only limited access. So we have sought to control via condition, minimising the impact on the local residents. I will stop sharing the presentation and hand back to Councillor Lavery.
Councillor Lavery, you're muted.
Mic on, am I? Right. I said a fairly straightforward application for temporary classrooms on a school site. Who would like to start us off? Councillor Tuckwell, then Councillor Morgan, then Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A nice scheme designed to improve educational facilities for this particular school. But one area that does concern me, which was mentioned quite a bit in the report, was condition 4, the construction and logistics plan. I do note that there is an awful lot of concern around the impact on Pillway and Benson Close, and I just wonder if condition 4 goes far enough to protect residents in those particular streets, as they will experience quite a bit of disruption as it's
I refer into condition 4 as in the report or as in the addendum?
As in the addendum.
As in the addendum. Okay. Mandit, could you comment on that, please?
Apologies, we do feel it goes far enough. We can impose an informative if you have any very specific things that you would like the construction logistics plan to consider at the time that it's submitted by the applicants.
Was that with the impact on Benson Close? I'm presuming you would want referenced in the informative.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly doable. We could add an informative to say that there's minimum disruption to Benson Close as part of the approval for condition number 4, or we could add it into the condition. I don't think either one is something.
Okay, I'd be happy with that as long as we strengthen it up.
For simplicity, would it not be better in the condition?
Yes, that's fine. We will add that as a footnote to.
Okay, I've got Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know this school fairly well, and I believe that they are looking to try and improve the sporting facilities for all the children that go there. and I actually support the officer's recommendations on this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I just find it a bit strange that this is to facilitate the redevelopment of the school, and yet it says that it's required to provide teaching accommodation for the school during the construction of a new school building, which has not yet been granted planning permission. So it seems, I don't know, what's happening with the new school building? Has an application been submitted? Are there any difficulties with that would impact on this? I don't want us to commit to something which then has relevance to the bigger picture, if I can put it that way. But could we just have a little bit more information about that?
James, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I think it's important to note with this site that in terms of the principle of school buildings, it's not green belt, it's not metropolitan open land, it's not in a floodplain. There aren't any in principle issues that would cause a problem with the redevelopment of the site. So we can't predetermine the planning application that's just been lodged, but what I can say is the in principle part of the determination has no issues. It would purely be design, parking. The issues that I would hope we shouldn't have any problems as a local planning authority addressing in conjunction with the applicant. Hopefully that can give a bit of comfort to the planning committee.
Thank you for that. It wasn't that so much. I do understand that it's not green belts, although it is playing fields, which obviously Sport England have commented on. But it was the fact that there isn't a planning permission for a new school, and yet we're limiting this to August 22, 2 years. So they've got to get planning permission in and approved, and it doesn't need to impact on this area. And the timescale seems to be, it wasn't the principle of the development, it was the timescale that seemed to be, as soon as they've got this, they've got 2 years, haven't they? And so the clock is going to be running down. It just seemed, you know.
I've got a note on my notes. I was going to come in a little late. I've got Councillor Higgins held. I haven't forgotten him, but I had a note next to this to say 2 years looks very tight to get planning agreed and a new building actually built, and the old one, the modular, taken away and it restored. That's quite an undertaking. But Mandy, do you have any views on that as to whether it would be sensible for us to push that back 12 months?
So we have an application that was only lodged on the 27th of May, but it is under consideration at the moment. Sport England are fully engaged in the new application for the sports hall building. So that's a 2-storey building on the site. I do consider that 2 years is possibly feasible. And the reason that this temporary application came in sooner is so that they could have used the summer holidays, albeit the summer holidays are not what they probably were going to be, in order to construct the temporary structure ahead of the application getting consent. So 2 years is a good time frame, as long as they're able to get the permission for this sports building, which is a current application that we're considering, and you should be seeing in a few months' time.
Okay. Councillor Higgins, you're the last I think I've got on my list.
Thank you, Chairman. I do concur with officer. I was going to say that it's not a redevelopment of the whole school, it's just a sports facility, and the construction of something of that is can be built very quickly. I'm a bit concerned about you putting it as a condition. I think it should be an informative. Most construction want to get it in and out as quick as possible anyway, and you know, I don't want us to be too onerous on the school, and we want to be helpful rather than. But that's my view, and I will move this if that's all right with you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Mandy, I'll come back to you on it. What's your preference, informative or for this extra bit on the construction management, informative or conditions? Do you have a strong view either way?
I think if we want to be proactive and helpful, if there is disruption to say 50% of the construction period, then we would want to be proactive and pragmatic and allow that disruption to take place. And that could only be really controlled if it was an informative. So we were trying to advise that they were using best practice to minimise the quantum of disruption.
I think you've answered the point. Then we'll log it as informative, and then that helps the residents, but doesn't. I mean, I can't imagine it's going to take them very long to get this stuff in and out anyway. I mean, modular classrooms don't take very long to get on site. There's a few days of very big lorries, and then they're pretty much gone. Councillor Higgins has moved this. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Melvin. Councillor Morgan was also going to, but you were there first, so that's good. So we are proposed and seconded on this one. I now come to the vote. Obviously, I have to do these individually. Councillor Tuckwell. Councillor Hagger. Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin seconded. Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Morse was not present for that item, so I don't think he still is. Councillor Duncan. Councillor Sansapori.
For.
So that's all members present are voting for. Councillor Morse is absent for this one. Liz, I take that one as approved. Yes. Thank you. Right, we now move to item 7.
Yep, that's approved.
A familiar
Thank you.
sight to many of you. The old vinyl factory, Blythe Road, Hayes. The good news is this is only an amendment. It's not a massive new scheme. Bandit.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 7 is the old vinyl factory. If I take you through the presentation, why is it not moving? Oh, there we go, sorry. So we're familiar with the application site. It has been outlined in red here. That doesn't provide you with a lot of context. So there is a plan to try and identify which building we're referring to. So you may, where's my red dot gone? There we go. So the assembly buildings is the central building within the application site. So we recently saw the powerhouse of planning committee, and number 1 Vinyl Square was at planning committee, I believe, in May. So this is a building in the centre of the old vinyl factory original planning permission. It has permission for redevelopment for residential properties. The whole block does have commercial at ground floor level, where it has an interface with some of the public realm, but above that it is a residential development. This application doesn't fundamentally seek to change or alter the external facades of this building. What the application is seeking to do is to change 18 consented studio apartments into 1-bedroom units. So that has resulted in a reconfiguration of all of the units across the development. So it's not easy for me to say that there are 18 units on the first floor that are changing to 18 1-bed units on the first floor. There is a full reconfiguration of the apartment block. However, it has been done in such a way that there are no real alterations to the fenestration. The only additional window which is proposed within this development in order to accommodate the proposals is this one here. If you can see the red dot on the screen, all other windows and openings within all of the residential blocks on this development have already been approved. This new window opening opens out onto the groove and has no impact on residential amenity, so looking over the groove onto the global UTC building. So the application is providing 18 additional 1-bedroom, not additional, they're changing 18 studio units into 1-bedroom apartments. So there is a slight alteration to the mix. However, that does not result in any real fundamental change in terms of the need for additional car parking or servicing. There have been some slight arrangements to fire safety strategies as part of this application. And the council on the whole have no objection to the proposals, and there is no objection to the mix of units, and the accessible mix of units is changing, but the development is still providing 10% of accessible units throughout the development site. This is the proposed apartment mix, which is not effectively changing from that which was approved, albeit the studios are changing to 1 bedrooms. This is the northern elevation. The reason we have a northern elevation plan is because it's this row of windows which are being inserted, which were not there before. So that's the only elevational change in the building blocks. If I take you through some photographs, so these are the locally listed buildings on site. This is the completed development. I believe it's the Fizzy Living one, or named Fizzy Living. I can't remember what its name is from before. This is the Global Academy, so the technical college, which is located on the site, fronting onto Blythe Road. And this is the powerhouse that we saw at planning committee a few months ago. The application has been recommended for approval. There is a short addendum on this item, which is primarily just condition changes. I will hand back to Councillor Lavery.
Okay, so a minor amendment to something we've seen before. Does anybody have any queries on this one, or are we happy to move it forward? Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think all members are very familiar with this site. It's a very minor change. I think actually a bit of an improvement on what was consented previously.
Thank
so
you.
I'm happy to move
Councillor
on to the
Duncan and
recommendation.
Councillor Sansapuri.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It seems an improvement, gives slightly larger units, so to be applauded, and I go with the officer's recommendation. I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Sansapuri, did you have a query, or were you just hoping to second it? I can't hear you. No, I can't hear, but he's not indicating anything, so I'm going to take that. Councillor Sansapuri, were you just going to second, or do you have a query on this proposal? Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Councillor Sansapuri.
Okay, I was just going to second that has been already done.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just ask, Councillor Sansapuri, can I just establish, did you hear the representations that were made on the item regarding the crane?
Item 7,
yes.
The old vinyl factory is where we are.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, thank you,
That's
Kerry.
great.
Right, in that case, I'll move to the vote.
Okay.
Councillor Tuckwell proposed, so Councillor Hagger.
For Chair.
Higgins. Councillor Melvin.
For Chair.
Councillor Morgan.
For Chairman.
Councillor Morse is still absent,
For.
according to my screen. Councillor Duncan seconded. Councillor Sansapuri.
4, please.
Thank you. That's all 7 voting members voted in favour, so that one's approved. Do you agree, Liz? Right. Item 8 was withdrawn.
Yes, I do, Chairman.
We now move to item 9. Mandy, on item 9, is the only change that this is now going to be fully affordable, or is there anything else changed in this?
There are no other changes. It's changing from 35% to 100% affordable housing. That's right.
As London affordable rent. Does anybody need a presentation on this one, given I would suggest most people...
No, very comfortable with that, Chairman, definitely.
Improvement to what was proposed for. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, no, I don't need a presentation.
Okay.
I'm very pleased with this and would like to move it, Chair.
I'd like to second.
Good. So I am proposed and seconded. Has anybody else got anything else they want to add? No. In which case I shall move again to the vote. Councillor Tuckwell.
For.
Councillor Hagger.
For Chair.
Councillor Higgins was a seconder. Councillor Melvin.
4, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
4.
I still don't have Councillor Morse. Councillor Duncan proposed it. Councillor Sansapori.
4, please.
Right, that's all voting members voted in favour. So that one's agreed, Liz. Yes.
Yep, that's agreed. Thank you.
Good. Right, I now move to item 10, Eagle Point to Runway, Riceler.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Just sharing the presentation. Item number 10 is an application that we saw in 2019. It's the redevelopment of a building known as Eagle Point, or Eagle House, sorry, which adjoins Odyssey Business Park on the runway at South Ruislip. The application proposes the demolition of this building, which is currently a ground and first and second floor building, to provide a hotel. So we've already approved planning permission for a 79-bed hotel. The current application seeks to add an additional 8 hotel bedrooms into the development. The uplift results in almost no changes to the building itself. The footprint remains the same. The landscaping and the car parking arrangement remains the same. So this is the proposed ground floor. The first and the second floor and the third floor of the building, again, remain the same, but the change occurs on the southern elevation, whereby an additional column of windows has facilitated a row of 8 new bedrooms on the building. So if I take you through to the south and west elevations, so this is the proposed southern and western elevation, and this diagram tries to show you the change. So we have approved the fenestration arrangement at the top, and the proposed arrangement that we're currently looking at adds this column of windows on the elevations. Now, it doesn't have any impact on residential amenity. It adds 8 additional hotel bedrooms, and accordingly has been deemed to be acceptable. We do not have hotel room standards. However, the Travelodge have their own standards, and therefore the sizes do appear from the layout to be sufficient to meet the needs of future occupants. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval, subject to the legal agreement, which is set out on pages 105 of the committee report. I will hand back to Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Bandit. Who wants to start off on this one? Councillor Tuckwell, it's in your part of the world. Do you want to start, followed by Councillor Higgins?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this part of the world very well. Know this scheme, was part of the committee that approved it. It's a good scheme. It does increase by 8 bedrooms. I was a bit concerned about the no increase in parking, but I do understand from the report that it is still well within standards, and there is parking management scheme around there, so that's not going to impact on residents. So on that basis, I'm happy to move officer's recommendation.
Councillor Higgins.
I'm happy to second that, Chairman.
Right, there's nobody else indicating, so I'm going to take it nobody else has got any views on this one. Good, in which case I shall move to the vote. Councillor Tuckwell proposed it, so Councillor Hagger.
4, Chair.
Councillor Melvin.
4, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
4.
Councillor Morse is still absent. Councillor Duncan.
4.
And Councillor Sansapori.
4.
Thank you. That's all voting members voting for. That one is approved. Do you agree, Liz?
Yes, I agree. It's approved.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 11 is land adjoining Guru Nanak Sikh Academy, Springfield Road, Hayes. Amanda, do you want to take us through this one?
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 11 is an application for a new 4-form entry primary school. So the application site, as shown on the screen, is Greenbelt land. So the existing secondary school, so the existing Guru Nanak Secondary School is highlighted here with my red dot flying around it. And the application site is the area identified or outlined in red. The site adjoins the Hayes and Yedding Football Club, which is over to the right of the screen. So this is the site location plan. So the application site is located on, so this is Springfield Road here, running down north to south, and then Beaconsfield Road along this frontage. So although the application references Springfield Road, its frontage is onto Beaconsfield Road. If I take you through, for information purposes primarily, the existing site accommodates a 2-form entry primary school, and that's accommodated within these water cabin buildings at the front of the site. So this is currently providing temporary accommodation for 420 pupils on site. The application, which proposes a building of this area, will facilitate a 4-form entry primary school for up to 840 pupils. So it is a significant change. However, the principles have been established because the primary school has been operating at the site for some time. If I take you through the proposed ground floor layout plan, I don't know if it's very clear to see, but I think there's another plan later that shows this more clearly. But you access the site via a one-way system whereby you would access your vehicle into the site here. There are temporary drop-off points on the edges of this perimeter road, and because it's one-way access, you exit onto Beaconsfield Road from this access point here. There is parking for staff as well as disabled parking, but primarily the drop-off point will be outside of the school. The school itself will be in a T-shaped building with the built form across these areas only, and that's primarily to minimise the impact on the green belt because the site is wholly within the green belt. This is the application site's first floor plan, so there are some void areas here to accommodate the school hall, whereas these areas will be the classrooms. And then this is the second floor plan. This is the application site's proposed roof plan, and then we have some typical elevations of the proposed school, with the one at the bottom, so the northern elevation, being the street frontage that you would see from Beaconsfield Road. These are some typical sections. This was a useful plan which showed the comparison of buildings and also of the sports provisions. So at the moment, although this area of land is unutilised and is not laid out as formal playing pitches, as part of the proposals, it would be laid out as formal playing pitches and with a small sort of ecological area to the south of the site to provide enhancements to the school's educational facilities. Now, there has been an objection raised from Sports England because obviously the quantum of, the quantum of what they refer to as playing field, which is technically accurate. So this was former playing field, is obviously being encroached upon by virtue of the new building. However, they have sought, the applicants have sought to provide much better facilities. At the moment, the pitches here are not overly usable because of the way in which the fields have been maintained. Therefore, the proposed provisions will actually provide for usable facilities, both for the school, but also for community use outside of school hours. This is a illustrative master plan of the landscaping. So you can see all the sports facilities to the south of the proposed building, but you can also see that there has been attempts made to make as much as they can of the landscaping along Beaconsfield Road. We then go to some aerial views. So as I mentioned, you enter the site in a one-way system. Staff are able to park here, but the future parents who might be doing drop-offs and pickups will be doing it from this area here. Now, in order to alleviate some of the concerns that quite rightly lots of people have with regard to the pickups and drop-offs and the congestion on Springfield Road and Beaconsfield Road, we have imposed a planning condition which requires that the various year groups start at different times of the day. When I say different times of the day, there's an interval of about 15 to 30 minutes. That means that not all parents are arriving on site at the same time in order to drop off their children. Now, this condition for the application site is coupled with a legal agreement requirement, which is seeking to see staggered drop-off times for not just this school, but also the adjoining secondary school. So it's the implementation of trying to alleviate some of the harm of everyone arriving at one time onto Springfield Road. It's an identified problem and results in concerns for the local businesses because there is a business area to the north of the site. So hopefully this, coupled with the travel plan initiatives, will allow for, to some extent, some alleviation of the local highway problems. The applicants have also agreed to a host of improvements to try and see if we can make a modal shift for future students actually arriving in more sustainable ways. So encouraging shared footpaths. The list of contributions are set out on page 136, and they provide for making better improvements to the pedestrian route down to the application site from Uxbridge Road to accommodate more people using the buses in order to get to school. I'll take you through some photographs. So this is the view of the existing school, the secondary school to the east of the site. And then this is the field. The application has been recommended for approval, and the terms and conditions of the heads of terms are set out within the officer report. And I will hand you back to Councillor Lavey. There is also an addendum on this item, if I forgot to mention that at the beginning, and they are just edits to the planning conditions. Thank you.
Several hands waving at me. Councillor Moore's joined us partway through that item, according to my screen, so obviously he won't be able to take part in this debate.
Have we lost Eddie?
I think we may have
glitch.
done. Councillor
Maybe if
Lavey.
we come offline and then recalibrate in a few minutes.
I think we've lost him, yeah.
To allow Chairman to come back.
Okay, so we're just going to stop streaming just for a moment, just to see if we can get the chairman back online. in
You're much
retrospect,
better off, instead of closing it all down,
yeah,
you might as well just say, right, the Vice Chairman will take this over now and we'll go forward.
yeah. No, absolutely. I
we had
agree
the
with you,
same
Councillor
problem in
Higgins.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a better way forward, and we wouldn't have ended up with this. But we have started and stopped the stream a few times, and it's on other meetings.
Yeah,
It hasn't been a problem.
it's not your fault, Liz. It's Ed's fault. I told you that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we had the same problem on. We had the problem on
We all learn by things that are going wrong. By the time it all comes to an end, we'll be an absolute expert.
Just bear with me. I've got a phone call. Just bear with me.
I actually think it's Councillor Oswald's fault for joining in at the very last minute.
No, it's Councillor Moore.
Sorry, Councillor Morse.
No, if Councillor Oswald,
right, councillors, just to advise that we are actually live again now.
We are live.
We are live again now.
So where do we have to take this back to?
I believe it goes back to item 11.
But did we get Andy's presentation up?
Okay, so if we can pick up where we left off, just bear with me because it seems to be streaming what. Okay, so I think we're now back as we were. Okay, so Chairman, we are now live. Okay, I think it seems to be replaying everything that we. Okay, so we need to take this back to item 11.
So does Mandy need to redo her presentation, or did that go out?
that went out. That went out.
I just want to double check before I move this forward. And then in that case, I don't know what Councillor Morse heard, whether you can now join in, but just hold fire a minute until I get confirmation.
I think we're running behind. So I think what we need to do is we need to be quiet until it catches up with us, because it's basically replaying everything that we have just said. So if we can all just remain on mute and then wait for it to catch up with us. Okay, Chairman, so we're now ready to resume the meeting. If we can just continue as we were with the discussion on item 11 following Mandit's presentation, please.
Okay, can I then take Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Chair. I do appreciate the points that have been raised by Councillor Higgins and Councillor Hagger. It is a concern that there are so many more vehicles that will be using this, but we do need the school, we do need the places. Could I just ask that the planting, I know we've got a landscaping condition, but that we do put in what I understand now is the standard condition, that it's more pollution absorbing, because on the other side of the road you're having heavy industrial traffic for part of the time, and you're also having increased car traffic, and this is a primary school. They are the youngest children, so let's try and improve the air quality if we
Councillor
can,
Duncan,
please.
that is in the addendum petition 4.1b.
Oh right, so it's in the addendum, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. Sorry.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. I've got, just for doubts, stop people waving at me too much. I've got Councillor Tuckwell, Councillor Sansapuri and Councillor Morgan on my list. So I'm coming to you. Councillor Higgins, I think, waving at me again, which is very worrying. Councillor Tuckwell, I'll start with you.
Well, it's all been said really, but the point I just wanted to add really was around the concerns for parking. In our own wards, we've all got primary schools that we know cause awful lot of congestion twice a day. So I think we have a responsibility as a committee to future-proof this school, but I do support it, and I like the idea of trying to just beef up the informatives, and that's all I had to add, Chairman.
Okay, I think we've probably done parking on this one, if I might be honest, because I think we've taken, the head of planning has guided, we've probably taken it about as far as we can. So I'll take non-parking issues if I may, but Councillor Sansapuri.
As Councillor Higgins has already proposed his office,
do you want a
recommendation, and I would like to second that.
Good. Well, I'll take that for a moment. Can I just Morgan
yes,
first,
please,
in case he's going to add something that changes that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to talk about car parking or traffic or anything like that.
Good.
I'm just looking at the roof of the proposed building, and I can't see much green or recycle eco-friendly solar panels or anything like that on the roof. Now, knowing that we're now on the 21st century, surely we should be looking at being more environmental friendly and using solar panels and such like.
Mandy, what is the proposal on this roof?
Either Councillor Lavery, I'm just checking, but I did think it was PV panels, and they are shown on the.
Have you got a plan number?
Visuals, so it's sheet 1 aerial views, which is in the plan pack. Bear with me.
I'm working my way through it as well.
I know the answer to this.
Go on.
Condition 8. So effectively, the relevant specialist officers happy with the report and all the calculations, but wants to see final details of the PV array. It's all set out in condition 8. In effect, answers the question.
James, and I think page plan pack 308, I think is the one you're after, Mandy. That to me shows what looks like a lot of PV panels on a roof.
And just to add, the school have confirmed that at the moment there are no proposals for green or living walls on this development, primarily because they don't know what their budget is. However, we weren't overly satisfied with that as an answer, so we have imposed a standalone condition to try and ask them to investigate to their fullest the provision of some form of green walls, green roofs, and primarily to the rear of the building to minimise the impact on the green belt. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I think that's everybody done on this one. Councillor Higgins and Councillor Sansapuri have proposed and seconded. We want to add an informative about car sharing. That's the only change to the report plus the addendum that we had before us. I'm seeing no other hands indicating, so I'm going to move through with the vote. Councillor Tuckwell. Councillor Hager. Councillor Melvin. Councillor Higgins was a proposer. Councillor Morgan. Councillor Morgan. Thank you. Councillor Morse, I don't think was in the meeting for the whole of the officer presentation, if I'm correct.
Yep, that is correct, Chairman.
Councillor Duncan.
For.
Councillor Sansapuri was a seconder. That's all voting. All members who were here for the whole of the meeting voting in favour, and therefore that one's approved. Do you agree, Liz?
Yes, I agree. That's approved.
Okay, we move to the final item of the night. Item 12, Hillingdon Court Park Pavilion Parkway, Hillingdon. Mandate when you're ready.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. This is a proposal at Hillingdon Court Park Pavilion. It was a former community building and has become redundant and is no longer required on the site. And so the council are looking to see what they could do with the facility, which was a former play space. Now, the application site, if I take you through the presentation, is on the western part of the site. It falls within the Greenbelt. It's also part of an area of special local character as designated within the local plan. So when we were looking at the proposals, we did have to take into account the Greenbelt designation and the area of special local character. So when the application first came in, it was for a 6-bedroom, fairly modern designed house. That was obviously felt to be inappropriate because the quantum of floor area proposed in a Greenbelt location was substantially greater than its replacement. Therefore, the proposal was amended to a 3-bedroom arts and crafts style property, which is now before you with a recommendation for approval. The initial concerns over the quantum of development in the Greenbelt has been overcome. If I take you through the proposed plan, so this was the former pavilion building, which is no longer required. The policy team have been consulted, and they are aware that obviously there is a loss of community facility in the building. However, due to the fact that there is no current demand and there are other facilities within the vicinity, it's considered to comply with our community policy DMCI 1. If I now take you through to the proposals, so you can see the red outline on this plan denotes the pavilion building, which is greater than the footprint of the property. However, the property itself is now a 2-story building and providing a 3-bedroom house. The rear garden is extensive and wraps around the whole of the property, and the access is via the parkway, but provided via a shared access for the other facilities on this site. The application has been recommended for approval, and I will take you through to the elevational drawing. So the design has been altered quite significantly following concerns raised with the original design, and it's felt that this one is more in keeping with the character of the area. The setback of the building from the road frontage is also akin to those on the opposite side of the parkway. Take you through to some photographs. So this is the facility itself. We may have some, nope, that's it. We didn't have any of the street scene, so I apologise about that. But the application has been recommended for approval, and I will stop sharing the presentation and hand back to Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Amanda, for that. Who wants to start off on this one? Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think this is an improvement on what's currently there. It's another 3-bedroom house to be provided in the borough, so I think it's a good scheme, and I'm happy to move officer's recommendation.
Just as a reminder, there is an addendum on this item. I don't think it was referenced by the officer, which has just changed a couple of the planning conditions. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, I've got no issues with the actual application. It's just to clarify that there can be no extensions or anything put on this building whilst it's in Greenbelt or area of special beauty.
Conditions 8 and 9, I think, will satisfy your concern. We've taken off the PD rights. So that should help that. Yep. Does that cover your issue? Page 227 of the officer report. Yep. That gets me a thumbs up. So that's good. Councillor Melvin, did you indicate, or were you just no?
No, it's been covered. What I was going to say, I'll just be happy to second the officer's recommendation.
I'll absolutely take that. Nobody else has indicated. Oh, Councillor Moore, sorry. Yeah, one indication.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might have some other issues about how I couldn't get into the meeting, but
I'll refer you to IT for those.
I notice we have a number of trees on the site, and we don't have a TPO because it's actually in the council ownership. have we looked at whether any of these trees are worthy for TPO?
Mandip, James, who wants to take that? Mandip.
I'm not aware of it, considering whether they should be TPO'd, but I'll pass to Mandip.
I do not believe that it has been assessed as to whether they should or should not be TPO'd. It's just commented that there are no TPOs affecting the site or the conservation area designations. The landscape officer hasn't raised any concerns subject to tree protection measures, so there are a significant quantum of trees being retained, and they will be protected during the construction phase of the development in order to ensure that they are the root protection is ensured to prevent them from dying. We do also have a condition, I believe, that they should be replaced if for any reason they are damaged during the construction phase, which is condition 6. Condition 6.
Oh, 6, sorry, it'd be 6, won't it? Yeah, condition 6, Mandip.
And all covered by parts of condition 4 as well.
Councillor Morse, does that cover your issue? You're live.
It just struck me. I think one of the two of these trees are of good quality, and we could have put a TPO in before we approved it. But I'll accept the proposals put forward.
Okay. Nobody else has indicated.
Chairman, if I can help, if committee want to request that through me, officers investigate whether any trees are suitable for a TPO, it would be separate from tonight's decision, but I can certainly action that through Stuart Hunt.
Well, I think that would be a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, very good idea.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
That supports what I'm questioning. Thank you.
Good, thank you, James. Right, I am proposed and seconded, in which case I've got no other indicated speakers, so I'm going to move to the vote. Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins.
For, Chair.
Councillor Tuckwell and Councillor Melvin proposed and seconded. Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Morse.
Chairman, unfortunately, we seem to have lost Councillor Morse just as it's come to the voting, unfortunately.
Well, hang fire for a second in case we get him back. Councillor Duncan.
For.
Councillor Sansapuri.
For.
Thank you. Do we have Councillor Morse? I can't see him on my screens. No.
No, I'm afraid he seems to have left the meeting.
We've lost him, so he can't vote. Everybody else has voted in favour, so that one's approved. Do you agree, Liz?
I do agree, yes.
And with technical difficulties at 7:15, I will close the meeting. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Chairman. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Okay, if you could all just
see some of you
remain
tomorrow.
on mute, I'll stop the stream. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. We'll stop the stream.
Thank you all.